have the US as a superpower. There's no question about this. They have aircraft carriers. The Chinese don't have aircraft carriers. They have nuclear weapons. They have a very powerful army. But on the ground, they're not very powerful. So when they go and occupy a country like Iraq, or now in the case of Afghanistan and the incursions into Pakistan, obviously it triggers a reaction, and the reaction is always on the ground. And the US will call that terrorism, and these people will call it, okay, you drop a bomb on top of us, and we will go and bomb your cities, or your hotels, or your convention halls, and so forth.
So, not to mention the human toll, but obviously a very difficult environment backdrop for the world, markets,
also,
so on.
It must be understood, Iraq was a relatively easy occupation, because it was a divided population in the middle of nowhere, basically. But Afghanistan and Pakistan is very complex, because it's bordering China, and in the north, the former Soviet Union and Russia. And I can assure you, neither China nor Russia has any interest in the US succeeding in Central Asia. That should be clearly understood. Because the Russians feel encircled by America, and the Chinese, they don't like having American troops on their western border.
Right, understood. Hey, listen, I'm going to switch gears big time because I do want to get to this topic, and this is technology. Julie, I know this is something you've been looking at closely in terms of technology names and so on.
I have. I've been looking at technology profit for this year, and in particular semiconductors. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. Semiconductor profit, those companies in the S&P 500 actually expected to drop by about 52% this year. And I know Mark is looking specifically at Intel, so I looked at Intel as well. This is another company whose profits are expected to drop the first 3 quarters of the year and then potentially rebound the last quarter. So, Mark, is it sort of that longer-term outlook that you're examining when you look at Intel and look at it positively right now?
Well, I think altogether in the United States and globally, you have a recession that is very severe. And the weak competitors, they don't have the money to do the research and the development. And so they will be in a disadvantaged position when the upturn comes. The strong companies that have the financing in place and can raise money, they can continue the R&D. And therefore, when the upturn comes, they'll be at a competitive advantage. And that's why I like leading companies in every field. Say Intel.
Mark, we were talking about technologies names. Intel, Cisco, Microsoft, those are names you like. And again, it's kind of...
Oracle also, I would say. And I think Yahoo will eventually be taken out. So the leaders will be doing okay.
The leaders. So the strongest
but in every
survive.
industry, I think in every industry, the leading companies will be emerging from the crisis. Whenever the economy recovers, will be very strong.
So look for, again, the best names, the most established names.
Yes, exactly. Also in Asia, say, if someone has no money in Asia, now you can buy top quality companies at reasonable P's. Most Asian markets, like Taiwan, South Korea, are at the level of 1988. Japan 4 weeks ago was at the 1981 level. So at least you can say we've built a long base in Asia.
So is that where you would be most aggressively buying when you look at the equity markets, or no?
Yes, I think so. I mean, an individual who hasn't got any money in Asia, the long-term outlook for Asia is still very attractive. So top names in Asia, whether it's Swire Pacific in Hong Kong or Fraser and Eve in Singapore, Singapore banks, OCBC, UOB, and some of even Bangkok Bank. I think these type of companies will definitely survive and will do well in the long run.
What about those emerging economies? You know, India and Asia, you know, China. I mean, everybody was saying a year ago that there would be decoupling. Well, that didn't happen.
Well, whenever there is an abbreviation like BRICS or LBO, it's a disaster. But every disaster leads to opportunities, and the BRICS countries have totally imploded. The markets of Brazil, China, India, and Russia.
And it's going to get worse, though, isn't it, in terms of the economies there?
Well, the economy has imploded as well and is in a bad shape. But prices are now down to attractive levels as an entry point, as a trading opportunity, like the metal stocks I mentioned. So I think I would buy these BRICS countries for a rebound, looking for a rebound of around 30% from the present level. And by the way, in India and in China.
In what time frame?
Well, I think that we have to... The market became very oversold November 21st. Since then, the S&P is up 23%. I think we can go up another 20%. But near term, on a 10 days basis, the market is a bit overbought. So maybe we have a correction into February and then another move up March, April, and probably kind of a peak around April, and then a big setback, because I don't think that the economy will recover in the second half of 2009. I think we'll have to wait a long time for a real economic recovery.
Mark, there's 4 countries in the BRICS, obviously. Would you apply that to Russia as equally as you would Brazil, China, and India? Because obviously there are some unique circumstances that Russia is facing right now. And if you feel similarly about Russia, where would you be putting your money?
Well, I mean, I would buy ETFs because they're liquid. You can buy and sell them and so forth. And every market has actually reacted rationally to events. When the economy began to slow down and went into recession in 2008, obviously emerging economies and also the resource producers are much more cyclical in nature than the United States or a Western economy. So they totally imploded and collapsed. That's why they became very oversold. It's like metal stocks. They are just, you take an Xstrata, it dropped from $91 to $10, and Freeport McMoran from over 120 down to 15. At 15 it was dramatically oversold. Or you take a dry shipping, dropped from 140 to 3 and now rebounded to 13. You have to buy the tennis balls that rebound.
Hey, you got 20 seconds here. Long time for recovery. That caught my attention. How long before you see a recovery? Just quickly.
Well, I'm very bearish long term because I think that Treasury bond yields will go up a lot, and the trade of 2009 is to short U.S. government bonds, big time.
All right. So did you say long-time recovery? When you think we'll have this recovery?
Well, I think it will take 5 years until the world recovers.
As you said, pretty bearish long-term. All right. Going to leave it there. Mark, it's always good to have time with you. Mark Faber, everybody.
Hear more Bloomberg News reports on the Bloomberg Terminal at AV Go, on Bloomberg Television, and on Bloomberg Radio. Copyright Bloomberg LP.